Hi everyone, welcome back to the next diecast. In today's video, I'll be unboxing and reviewing this Plymouth Neon promotional model made by Brookfield Collectors Guild. Now, Brookfield was a manufacturer of various plastic promotional models, mainly in the 1990s, and a lot of the models that they made were of Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth, or Jeep products. But here's the basic blue box that most of these models came in. I got this model from eBay for about $30 in total, which I thought was a good deal considering that these are kind of hard to find now. But here's the standard Brookfield Collectors Guild box that a lot of these promotional models came in. This does have the Plymouth Neon name on the side along with the color that this model will be, which is emerald green. Here's the bottom of the box, a little bit of water damage going on, so hopefully the model inside is okay. But let's get this out of the box. There's a little tab on the side here with the side flap. Then you just open it up like so. I'm really excited about this. And $30 is actually on like the lower side for how much these Brookfield promotional Plymouth and Dodge Neon models usually are being sold for or selling for on eBay. I'm trying to get this flap here. There we go. There's the Plymouth Neon in that dark green. Looks really nice. There's the Neon right out of the box. A little bit dusty, but I'll definitely clean this up once I get it off the cardboard. Yeah, the Neon was quite the iconic vehicle. The first generation Neons were built between 1994 and 1999. And then, of course, the Plymouth brand was axed after 2001, but Dodge continued production of the Neon until 2005. So there was 3 different unique generations. It looks like this is held down by these big twist ties, so I'm going to try to get these untied here. This, I don't think, was ever removed from this cardboard base. That's actually really cool to see that. This model was pushing 30, if not, past 30 at this point. So that's actually really impressive. And then we'll get this other side untied. I'm guessing these ties are going to be kind of jammed into the axles, so we'll see if that ends up being a chore to get these off, but I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. Interesting choice. Instead of having screws, they end up just tying it down with these giant plastic twist ties. There we go. At least I can pull this off the base now. Yeah, they're pretty jammed in there. You have to kind of work it around the wheel and tire without... Oh, that was actually easy enough. And then I just got to yank this through. You gotta be careful though. The axles are made out of metal, so no worry about them bending or breaking by pulling these out, but I'm always careful with stuff like that. I may have to cut this. Actually, there we go. All right, the other ones seem kind of difficult. Or not. Keep jinxing myself. All right, now this one seems a bit tight. Come on. There we go. All right, got that base and those twist ties off the car. And here's the Plymouth Neon. Looks really cool. I think the emerald green always looked great on the Plymouth and Dodge Neons. My parents actually, for a short time, owned a 1996 Dodge Neon sedan in this same color. And once again, exact same car, but just a different badge for Plymouth and Dodge Neons. This is pretty dusty, so I will be doing a cleanup of it. But for right now, here's the Plymouth Neon. Get the camera off the tripod here. Looks like there's no scratches or anything. It's mostly just dust and some dirt. The interior actually looks pretty clean, seeing how this was definitely exposed to dust at some point, but wow. And this model is about 1/24 scale. I totally forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video. But we'll clean it up and see how it looks. All right, the Plymouth Neon is all cleaned up now. Just had a little bit of dust on it. The interior was pretty much spotless, I came to realize, so that was kind of cool to see that. I guess this really was just sealed up inside of that box for all that time. But I just took a dry microfiber cloth, wiped it down, and then now it's all cleaned up and everything. A few just, fine scratches throughout, but if anything, it sort of looks like the real car would if this were a well-preserved, example of the real-life Neon. But Brookfield Collectors Guild was a company that manufactured promotional die-cast and plastic models, mainly of Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth, and Jeep products from the 1990s. They, of course, made models of the Plymouth and Dodge Neon sedan and coupe in different colors. They also made models of the Chrysler Sebring convertible, which actually came with the working fabric top. They also made models of the Dodge Stratus, the Chrysler Cirrus, Dodge Intrepid, Plymouth Voyager minivan, Dodge Caravan, Chrysler Concorde, just several examples of various vehicles from the lineups of these brands from the 1990s. And Brookfield Collectors Guild, I would say, is fairly similar to the AMT Hurdle brand because both brands, of course, did make plastic promotional models of American cars. Although the Hurdle brand made promotional models for quite a bit longer compared to the Brookfield Collectors Guild brand. Ertl was making promotional models and plastic models in general for several decades before the 1990s. And they sort of stopped making plastic promotional models, I think, around the late 1990s, maybe around 2000 or so. And same thing with Brookfield. I couldn't really find much information online about the overall history of Brookfield as to when was the firm year that they founded, what year did they actually start making models, and which year they formally ceased operations. But regardless, if you look online for any of these Brookfield Collectors Guild promotional models for sale, they are fairly hard to find. On any given day on eBay, you can usually search for and find a lot of these Brookfield Collectors Guild models, but you usually only get a handful of given results for a given model that you're looking for. And in some cases, certain colors or certain body styles will go for a lot more money than the other body styles or colors that you might see on there more frequently. This is, once again, the dark emerald green version of the Plymouth Neon. And my parents, once again, did drive a 1996 Dodge Neon in this exact same paint scheme with the exact same gray interior. So I was actually very excited to find the Plymouth version online because, once again, the Plymouth and Dodge Neons were essentially identical vehicles. They only differed in terms of badges and in terms of where they were sold. In Europe, they actually sold a Chrysler Neon as well. And that's the only place where you could find a Chrysler Neon for sale, at least when these were still being built new. But here in North America, we got the Plymouth Neon and the Dodge Neon. The Dodge Neon was produced pretty much continuously over the course of three generations from 1994 until 2005. And the Plymouth Neon was produced from 1994 until 2001 in two different generations because the Plymouth brand was actually discontinued entirely in 2001. And at one point, you would see these 1990s neons just all over the place. Every time you went out, you would see one of these neons. But they all just sort of vanished from the roads, it seemed like. And of course, now the oldest first-gen neons are pushing 26, 27 years old. So you're not going to really see that many cars of that age on the road. You will still occasionally see a first-gen neon on the road, but definitely not as much as you would have seen 10, 15 years ago or so. But I'm really happy that I got this model. The emerald green version of both Brookfield's Plymouth Neon and Dodge Neon models seem to be a little bit more common compared to the other colors that Brookfield made these neon models in. Now, Brookfield also made models of the Plymouth and Dodge Neon Coupe, and I believe each of those came in maybe two colors, respectively. And they also made a version, it was kind of like a promotional race car sort of neon model where they either came in black and white and they had these neon graphics on the sides. It would say the word neon in giant letters. And they had various graphics, I think some racing decos on them. But I had to really dig around online a lot for the different information about this brand and this model in general because Brookfield did not really exist for that long. I think they were only around in the 1990s and they ceased operations, I think, sometime before 2000 or so. If you can find this on eBay, you'll definitely expect to pay at least $20 for, and that's for loose out-of-the-box versions. A lot of them will come with bent or broken mirrors, so just be careful with that. But you can occasionally find nice near mint in boxed examples of this model, depending on which color you're looking at or which body style you're looking at. I would say the emerald green Plymouth and Dodge Neon from Brookfield is probably one of the more common colors that you could find the model in. And I would say the rarest is probably the 2 different coupe versions or 3 different coupe versions. A lot of people, I guess, aren't really aware of this model. And I sort of did like a random search in general just for Brookfield Collectors Guild models because I wanted to get one to have for my collection in general. But I wasn't sure if I'd be able to find one. And sure enough, I found this Plymouth Neon that looked pretty much identical to the Neon that my parents drove. Of course, they had the Dodge version once again. But I'd say as far as a plastic model goes, Brookfield really got the details, I think, quite good with this model. You can see that in the front here, the headlights are the nice iconic round shape that you saw with the real life Neon. They have a nice reflective quality to them on here as well. They're actually cast in just this chrome. It almost looks like that they're turned on when you have them in certain like lighting, like when the light shines on them. I thought that was kind of cool. You also have the Plymouth badge on the hood. And then you have the indicator lights done as separately cast pieces of plastic as well. And then you have this lower grille down here, which is perforated. So I thought that was a cool touch for a plastic model. And then you also have the indicator lights painted on the sides of the front bumper as well. And the paint quality, I think, is quite good for a plastic promotional model as well. This is pretty much spot on to what you would have seen on the real life emerald green Plymouth/Dodge Neon. And I think the other colors that this model comes in look good as well. Not all the paint colors that Brookfield made this model in are going to be a metallic finish, but that's only because the real life colors were not all metallic finishes. But I think the green personally is my favorite color, at least as far as the Neon sedan goes. I think it just really suits it quite well. And you also have these side mirrors on here as well. Again, like I mentioned before, they are a little bit on the fragile side, so just be careful when you're putting the model back in the box or with cleaning it. Then you have the windshield wipers. They're just kind of molded into the windshield there. Then you do have the side molding on here as well, painted on in gray. You would, of course, see that on the real life Neon. They actually do mold in the defroster, which I was kind of surprised to see that. Of course, the real life window defroster would have red lines and not just like these clear lines. But the fact that Brookfield actually put that in there, I thought was kind of surprising for, a plastic model that would have been given away back when it was new. And then back here, I think Brookfield did a good job with these taillights as well. They are pretty much spot on to what you would see on the real life Neon. I believe on the real life Neon, however, there was some kind of like an indicator light and the taillights weren't just all red. But at least Brookfield puts them on as separately cast pieces of plastic instead of painting them on like you would see for some of those plastic promotional models that you would see back in the day. You also have the Neon badge as well as the Sport badge back here as well. These are actually very hard to see because they almost match up with the dark green paint. They were sort of like a bluish green on the real life vehicle. I think they might have been different colors depending on which paint color you got, or if you got the Plymouth or the Dodge version. Not totally sure, but you can see them and they are in the right places. They're just kind of hard to see on the dark green version of the model, but not really that big of a deal. Then you also have the Plymouth license plate back there as well. Nice wheels and tires. These are an actual wheel choice that you could get on the real life Plymouth and Dodge Neon, I believe. These are Goodyear tires, and I think these are the real tires that you would have seen on the real life vehicle. And of course they are rubber tires, so I do like to see that. And then you also have this badge on the fender as well. The model does roll nice and smooth as well. The axles are made out of a nice strong metal, so I always do like to see that on there. And of course, you don't have any of the opening doors or any opening features in general on this plastic promotional model, but at least in this case, because you don't have side windows, you can actually get a decent look on the interior. There's not really a whole lot to see on the interior. I think the steering wheel and the dashboard look and shape is fairly accurate to what you would have seen on the real life Neon. All the buttons are molded in, they just aren't really colored in and whatnot. And you actually do get the sticker for the gauge cluster. I was surprised to see that when I got the model. And then you have the badge molded into the center of the steering wheel. So not a whole lot in terms of fine detail, but again, this is a plastic promotional model. So a lot of the focus is on the exterior detailing as opposed to the interior detailing. But I think the seats and everything look good in here as well. They are the right overall look and shape compared to what you would see on the real life Neon. Kind of a nice texture going on in there as well. And then aside from that, not really a whole lot to see or talk about. They do actually put in the door panels. There isn't really a whole lot of detail on them though. but not really a big deal. So if you're a fan of the Dodge and Plymouth Neon, or if you just like collecting obscure regular car models like I do, or promotional models, this is definitely, I think, a model to keep an eye out for. If you really want a certain color, you're gonna maybe have to wait to find one because these don't really come up that frequently for sale on eBay. And again, the dark green version, and I think also the really light green version that both the Plymouth and Dodge Neon models that Brookfield made were available in, seem to come up the most frequently of all the different colors and body styles in terms of the coupe and sedan models of the Neon that Brookfield made. So if you can find this for a good price, I would say definitely get it. I think it would be a unique model to add to your collection, regardless of what you collect, but especially if you do happen to collecting these plastic promotional models, because you definitely don't really see these being manufactured new at this point for sure. So definitely a unique model to look for. Feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on this video or on this model. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.